That's right. Fantasy football championships. We bringing home the hardware. Let's go from the forum. What's up, Matt? How's it going?
Good,
Fantasy
Tyler. How are
football
you?
season is here, and my hands feeling heavy, brother. Championships everywhere. I had a killer season. Absolutely rocked it in a majority of my leagues. Four dynasty leagues. I was lucky enough to win three of them. Then my redraft leagues weren't as great. So, if you guys know, last year you've been watching the show. I was in the Kings Classic, which we're gonna brag on you for just a second on that one there, Matt. But I was in the Kings Classic and I took it home. This year I played a different strategy. I went real running back heavy. I drafted 7 running backs straight. Then went wide receivers, and my plan was my wide receivers would take off about mid-season. Like I could finagle a couple wins there. About mid-season, they would hit good form, and we would get to kicking, and then I could win the championship. They showed up just 1 week too late. I had a tough beginning. Then I went on a 7-win streak at the end of the season to try to make the playoffs. I missed it by 1 game. And I watched, it's crazy. I watched the playoffs unfold, and I had the highest score in the league all 3 weeks of the playoffs, Matt. Oh, I was salty. But enough about me. Somebody else crowned IDP Kings Classic champion.
No, I'm not going to make you call me King Monty just yet because I do want to make sure that I get the championship belt sent to the house first. But it is probably the coolest feeling that I had. I kind of went a similar strategy. I didn't go near as deep as you. 7 straight running backs is crazy. I did start off pretty running back heavy, had Devon Achane and Chase Brown. Took a chance on Chase Brown early in the second round, and it paid off with 5 touchdowns over the last 2 weeks of the fantasy season. That was fantastic. But in IDP, I could bore you for days on the IDP statistics, but let's just say your boy cleaned up on the IDP side.
Look, IDP, so I'm in one IDP league. It's a dynasty league. I finished 4th in that. It was absolutely awesome. By the way, guys, if you're tuned in, this is your Friday night, 9 o'clock from the forum Q&A show. And I understand some of you finished your, like us, you finished your fantasy football championships last week, week 17. Some of you crazy degenerates are somehow still playing into week 18. So we're here for you there. But I don't know about you, Matt. Like the thing for me that flipped, it's like as soon as last week ended, I was like, man, I don't even know if I'm gonna watch football week 18. Like I'm gonna watch college football. Like I want to see my prospects. I want to see the dynasty players that I'm pumped to get on my roster next week or next year. And man, what a week of college football! Miami upsets Ohio State. Freaking the Hoosiers.
Hey, IU, baby.
Smash Bama. And Ole Miss pulls out the win over Georgia. Crazy, crazy week for college football. Lots of surprises, I think. Players that are popping out that are definitely raising their draft capital. How do you feel going into dynasty season?
Well, if you want to go on the offensive side, I think it's hard to talk about anybody else but Fernando Mendoza to start. That guy I know he's going to be the most talked about player probably throughout the rest of this college football playoff and going into draft season, not only for what he's doing for Indiana, but the potential to take over a team of nothing, of nobodies, and turning it into a potential. And I'm not saying that to harp on IU as a bad program, but let's face it, over the course of the last 100 years, they have not been good. As going into this season, they were the losingest program in Division I football history, and they are 2 games away now from potentially crowning themselves as national championship. But you don't do that with a quarterback that can't handle chaos, which is exactly what Fernando Mendoza is going to do if he is the first quarterback taken in the draft. You don't get drafted by the good teams early in the draft as a quarterback. You get drafted by teams that have a necessity at the most important position in the NFL. And I do think seeing Fernando Mendoza already have a little bit of taking a nothing program and turning it into something with the help of the team and a fantastic coach also. But seeing Tom Brady gush about him made me think, all right, the conspiracy theories are turning in my head. Are the Raiders going to try to get him? And then you pair him up with an Ashton Jeanty, and we suddenly have the juiciest young core at 2 of the most fun positions to watch in fantasy football.
Oh, 100%. The Raiders, obviously they didn't do anything to try to not end up in the first pick. I think they're definitely, I mean, Geno to me was never.
Here's who he is.
Yeah, it was never good. He was always just like a bridge, right? He was a bridge guy, and somehow he landed a short contract, and it wasn't going to happen. Like I didn't think, but when you talk about it, I mean, you look at the tight end set, like even with Brock Bowers out, Michael Mayer has been just awesome. So you got both those guys, you got some young receivers, and I think going in, like, their defense wasn't bad. I think going into this draft, they're going to get them a quarterback. I think they're going to get them a couple wide receivers, and then they're going to bolster that defense. It's going to be a fun draft for Vegas for sure.
Absolutely. And, like you said, they didn't do anything to stop themselves from getting the number 1 pick. I would argue that they 100% went for the number 1 pick the moment that they told Max Crosby to sit down, and he starts putting Instagram videos out of suddenly he's the greatest basketball player on earth because your boy was not hurt. So say what you want about the NFL and how they don't tank. I think they take 16, 17 weeks serious, and then after that, they're like, all right, guys, business decisions are going to be made.
Oh yeah, dude, man, this week was crazy. I know if you had a couple. Let me hit this guy in the chat real quick. Got try hard 0012 in the chat. What's up, guys? I won. Bijan is my hero. Bijan is a lot of people's heroes. The freaking both. If you had Bijan, if you had CMC, I mean, you freaking knocked it out of the park. Going into that championship week, Chase Brown, like you said, absolutely awesome.
There's nothing like winning a championship on Monday night, and if you do it with a guy like Bijan, it's almost like that's the reason you took him as high as you took him, was for that moment to get him 170 all-purpose yards, just flying all over the place, could not be taken down.
Yeah, it's just freaking beast. Got Cashew Sports Cards in the chat. Hey guys, what would you say your best waiver move of the season and why?
Cashew Sports Cards is my little brother, just an FYI, everybody watching.
That's awesome. Thanks for tuning in. I don't know about you, but probably the best waiver wire move for anybody would have been grabbing Michael Wilson.
Yeah, that was a great move. I think with Marvin Harrison not being what everybody thought he was going to be, Michael Wilson was always kind of good, but then MHJ gets taken early in the draft. You assume with all the pedigree, he's going to just gobble up all the targets and the receptions, but I think he's a little disgruntled. I think that Kyler Murray attitude's kind of the stink of that franchise is just not good right now. So Michael Wilson being awesome. Can I tell you my favorite though?
Good.
My favorite, Kenneth Gainwell, the running back for the Steelers. In this Kings Classic, man, I got the glorious, is it a touchdown? Is it a not touchdown ball that just falls in his arms and he gets up and runs? I mean, you just don't have stuff like that happen in a semifinal game. I'm going with either Gainwell, or I did pick up and start Michael Mayer in the championship game, and he had arguably the best game of his career. So those are my 2 personal favorites, but I think I'm leaning Gainwell because honestly, over the course of the season, he was a fantastic plug and play running back. Whether it was a flex spot or a bye week filler, he was consistent, and that's how you win these type of leagues.
Yeah, 100%. It's crazy. So Kenneth Gainwell coming into the draft now. He's a Memphis guy, so I live in Memphis, Tennessee. Watch the Memphis Tigers. Have eaten at Tony Pollard's folks restaurant. Kenneth Gainwell was here, and he was a boss. I mean, he was just awesome. And like, I thought going in the NFL, he would be he would be incredible. And so the crazy thing is he was stuck. He was stuck behind other running backs. And so I have held him on my dynasty roster since he was drafted. And so it was awesome to take that like third round rookie running back pick, right? It's just been sitting there doing nothing for 3 years and take him to the championship. He was in two of my leagues, my dynasty leagues that I won championships in. Um, you know, but the end of the season was crazy. Like that last, so you talking about the Monday night game, right? So the Monday night game, I'm in my main, like my home league of record. Like the one, like with the guys you've been playing with 15 years, it's like, it's like the league you want to win more. The buy-in isn't as much or whatever. We all get together and draft every year at my house, drink a ton of alcohol, eat wings, do our draft, all that jazz, right? So it's me and this other guy. I'm a 3-time champ. He's a 2-time champ, and it's down to the final. I've got a 2-point lead. He has Puka Nakua. I have Kyron Williams and Kyle Pitts. And I'm like, theoretically, this should be it, right? Like this should be okay. Game goes. And it's like back and forth. Blake Corum's getting all the work at the beginning of the game. And I'm like, oh God, it's all melting, right? And he goes down. So Kyron starts getting some work. Like the fourth quarter, Kyron comes alive and makes it close, right? So then I've got like a 3-point lead with Kyron and Kyle Pitts, and he's got Puka. And freaking Atlanta gives the Rams the ball back on the last, with a minute left. And I'm like, oh, go. Here goes my championship. Because there was one year, like 3 years ago, where freaking in the fourth quarter, Aaron Jones takes in garbage time 70-yard touchdown run that cost me a championship. I'm like, here we go again. Here we go. Puka's going to cost it for me. And so they're throwing, he's moving the ball. That sideline catch that Puka made at the end of the game.
Incredible.
Incredible catch. Absolutely incredible catch. If he makes that catch, I lose. And I'm sitting there, I'm watching the replay, and I'm just like, my heart's beating. I'm like, I'm going to die, And you just see the ball separate just enough from his hand. And he still catches it, but just separated just enough with his feet. They call it incomplete, and I win my championship. Let me tell you, I could not go to sleep for 2 hours after that. I was so freaking just jazzed.
You know what's funny about that play? So I have my father was in a championship game and was going against Puka and had a similar stack up there. He had Kyron Williams and somebody else. I don't remember. Same exact scenario. He's winning with a minute left. Rams get the ball. And I'm also sweating the Kings Classic IDP championships. And I told my wife earlier in that day, hey, from 8 o'clock until midnight, I am not going to be the same person. I hopefully come out of this a better person, but there is no promises being made. Puka gets the catch. I'm staring at my TV like two inches away from it, like nose almost touching the damn TV. And I turn around and my wife's like, that looked like a catch. And I was like, I think that might be a catch. That's going to screw a lot of people over if that is a catch. And then, like you said, we get that little bit of separation. And that's right after he had an 80-yard almost touchdown that was pass interference and no pass interference, like 2 or 3 plays before. You could tell the game plan that last drive was get Puka the ball by any means necessary. And I know that there were many fantasy managers both sweating and loving that sequence, myself included.
Yeah, for sure. Well, if you need it, they're definitely the Rams are going to play this week, so it's going to be an exciting one. BHS Cardinal said in the chat, what does Arizona do at quarterback next season? Monty, I know you're in there. I know you got thoughts. We've gotten a lot. We've gotten a lot of crybaby Kyler. We got a lot of Kyler, I'll just go back and play baseball. And I've heard really 2 scenarios. I've heard Cardinals keep Kyler they get him a new coach. Or I've heard really three options. They clean house inclusive of Kyler. And then option number 3, they let Kyler go and roll with Gannon one more season to see what happens with a different quarterback in there. What do you think?
Well, I think we've seen this story play out with Kyler a lot with new coaches, different coaches, and I think that he's the common denominator there. Look, I think he's a fantastic athlete. I don't think he's a bad quarterback, but he does force your offense to be a certain way. He's a sorter quarterback who relies a lot on athleticism, and we've seen over time that quarterbacks that play with that play style do not last as long and do not typically have the highest ceiling. So once you get their peak, you better win it, because if they're not at their peak, it's almost a deficit to the offense. But that being said, Kyler has not been a bad quarterback. This is the first year, I think, as a fantasy asset, he has been unstartable, where he is the potential to lose you weeks more than he had potential to win you weeks. I personally think I wouldn't be shocked if Tua is the hottest guy on the free agent market this year, and then having him sign or be traded to the NFC. It would not shock me to see Tua get a fresh start. He's a little bit closer to his Hawaiian roots. Now he's still on the continental United States, so it's not like he's exactly close to Hawaii, but I could see him starting to go out west a little bit more. I think Mike McDaniel proved that he's going to be there next year in Miami. And I do think that we have a little, I don't want to say it's a controversy, because I don't think Quinn Ewers is like stealing the job by any means, but I do think that Quinn Ewers has shown that he deserves an opportunity for a year with no real anybody breathing down his neck as a potential starter in a Mike McDaniel offense. And I do think that Mike McDaniel kind of wants to retool this a little bit. And when Tyreek Hill went down, they rattled off 5 or 6 straight wins. Not saying it was Tyreek Hill's fault, but I could see Tua going away from Miami and seeing Ewers at least have an opportunity for the first month or 2 of the season to see what he's got in the NFL. So that's my hot take for you. What do I think the Arizona Cardinals do? They're typically a franchise that doesn't do the smart thing. In my opinion, it would not shock me if they just would not admit defeat and keep Kyler there, though.
Yeah, that'd be awful. And you started talking about there, Limelight Worship said, speaking of Tua, can Ewers keep the Miami job? Wondering for my dynasty team. There were some people that took Ewers, 4th round in dynasty drafts, if you even had to draft him. If it's a super flex, maybe it was 3rd or 4th round that you got Ewers.
Well,
have you seen enough that he could actually be valuable?
Well, I was going to say, I actually in the preseason for Football Guys covered the Miami Dolphins training camp. And I can tell you from this that he was by far the worst quarterback at their training camp. It was not even close. They wouldn't even let him get second team reps. He was basically scout team, and he was not doing well there. So his progression, I think, from not getting any opportunity in preseason to now having the keys and he's not playing, like I said, he's not playing over the top. This isn't a Tom Brady situation where he's suddenly going to be one of the best quarterbacks ever, but I do think he's better, and he has gotten better with the opportunity to watch and learn the NFL offenses under a Mike McDaniel, who, say what you want about him, is a good offensive play caller and can scheme guys open. And Quinn Ewers is a perfect guy to just get the ball to the open receiver. He's not going to beat you with a huge arm. He's not super athletic. He is the perfect young bridge quarterback right now. He's like, we were talking about Geno Smith. I think if you had people in the league say, would you rather roll with Geno Smith or take a Quinn Ewers year? A lot of people, probably a majority, are going to go with the Quinn Ewers opportunity over what we know we have with a Geno Smith. And I think that gives him the opportunity to at least show us what he's got.
Through what, 2 games so far, he's thrown for 485 yards, 2 touchdowns. He's had what, 3 3 turnovers, 2 interceptions, and a fumble, I think.
Yeah.
So not amazing, but big test coming up this week. You got a beast of a defense in New England. I think we'll really get to see something, and I think this game will probably decide a lot. 3 games in, you've gotten some reps. He definitely looked more efficient last game than he did the first. Well, I said the first game was all first half. The first half he looked efficient, and the second half it kind of fell off, right? This game he looked more efficient. He only had 22 attempts. Still connected on a good bit of those. So, I think I don't know. Like I think this New England game will tell a lot about what opportunity he will or won't get, or what Miami might do, because this is a year where they pick, they could take a shot on a quarterback. You know,
Yeah.
it's not
And it
like
wouldn't
it's
shock me if they did, because and like I just because I don't believe Tua is going to be there. I really do think that I think they're done.
so
I'm
it's
not sure of the
crazy.
contract situation, so throw that out in the air. But I just don't think that they're ready to do it again.
With Tua, the thing was like, he came out with all that stuff about coming to meetings and all that. You saw that press conference, and then his teammates came out chirping. They were like, "You're the ones that don't come. You're the one that doesn't come to the meetings. You show up late, blah blah blah." It's like chirping at each other, which is crazy for like a team
Right.
leader, right? But like, if that's true, if you have a team leader that's in there that's not bought in, right? One, that's kind of a tough reflection on the head coach, right? Because
Yes, it
and
is.
that's one thing I thought Mike McDaniels lacked was, Mike McDaniels is like your buddy guy. He's like your friend coach. Like the coach
Yeah.
is like the friend with the players, like be trying to be cool and be, have swag. And then you've got like the Harbaughs that don't care about swag. They're like, we're here to win football games. It's like, and so it's
The dynamite hardball.
yeah, and so it's just totally different, and I think that kind of comes over, right? Like, you're a Hoosiers fan. Did you watch the press conference?
Oh yeah,
Um,
man.
dude, where he was like, I mean, he was breaking it down. He's like, you got to do this, you got to have discipline, you got to be another, like, just if you listen to him, like, that's what you need in a head coach. You need somebody that says, hey, if you want to be average,
Oh,
that's okay. Average is okay. We want to be great. If you want to be great, this is what
I
that
do
looks
think he
like.
came on. He came on strong, but which is every head coach wants to put their fingerprints all over the program, and I think at first everybody was kind of cringing about it, myself included. Where it's like, dude, come on, man, like why don't we see some wins before we start talking about beating Ohio State? And then you actually see it happen. And then it would have been the perfect opportunity for that guy to take a pop shot like Ryan Day did to Lou Holtz after they beat Notre Dame. Like it would have been the perfect opportunity for Cignetti to say something about Ohio State. But the first thing he said was, I have to find a way to keep these guys humble for 3 weeks. He didn't think about anything other than I've got another game to play now. We're in the playoff. We got to do this. McDaniel does not give me that level of, it's alpha. It's that alpha energy, right? He's going to lead dudes. If I see Mike McDaniel in a room or Kurt Cignetti, who am I following if there's a bomb going off? Probably going to go with Cignetti. Not that I don't like Mike McDaniel, but I just feel like the situation is going to be handled more seriously, more effectively. But I'm with you. McDaniel does kind of go with the I'm swaggy. I played Madden as a kid. I've been doing dynasty mode for 20 years, so I'm going to treat this team like dynasty mode. And I just think Cignetti brings just enough new school energy with that old school mentality, and you're seeing it play out in a program that does not have a history of success.
Yeah, you nailed it. It is that. And like, we were talking about it. It's like some people were meant to be coordinators. Like the coordinators can be that. They can be fun. They don't have to be like, you look at some of the great head coaches, the people that are winning, none of them are like that. They're all very like structured, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just I wonder if Quinn
There's
can
nothing
be
wrong.
all right.
Go ahead, sorry.
No, you're
Well,
good.
there's nothing wrong with being a good coordinator. These guys are just as effective at winning games as the head coach. Take Dan Campbell and Ben Johnson. Think about that. If Ben Johnson leaves, Chicago's offense suddenly looks like it's reinventing the wheel, and Caleb Williams is the guy that everybody thought he was going to be, and the Lions have a disappointing season. Or you've got Robert Saleh as the defensive coordinator back in San Francisco. So suddenly their defense, even losing guys like Dre Greenlaw and Talanoa Hufanga. Now, it did not look good on Sunday night when the Bears, it felt like every other play was a touchdown in that Sunday night game.
Dude, that game was crazy, period.
That game was amazing. But defensive coordinator, offensive coordinator, there's nothing wrong with that. You have to have a vice president. You have to have a silver medalist on the podium at the Olympics. Sometimes you're just better fit as being the guy that calls the play, and that's your responsibility, than having to be awake at midnight because some guys are getting in trouble or having to be at the meeting at 4 a.m. and then leaving at 9 p.m. and everybody's gone. Not everybody's cut out for that. And I don't know if Mike McDaniel is or isn't. I think the jury should still be out for him because I do think he's got a pretty unstable organization that he is working with, which are now taking steps. They've now hired, I'm not sure if you saw this report, the Dolphins hired Troy Aikman to help with their GM process. So they're now sort of trying out of the box things to find better leadership, and they clearly don't believe it's in the building to find effective management. That's something. It may not be everything, but if you're hiring a guy who's been out of the game for 30 plus years as a player and as an analyst to help you find somebody who's going to help manage the operations of the team, not even the X's and O's, that tells me you're trying anything at this point. And I think that shows they trust Mike McDaniel in the role he is in, but I don't know for how much longer because Miami can be they can be hot to trot to get rid of guys.
I think it's one of those things where McDaniel is going to flop Miami. Like Miami's not going to work out for McDaniel.
Yep.
He's going to go somewhere else as a coordinator again, and he's going to be excellent, and he's going to get another shot. We've seen lots of coordinators get shot. I mean, Dan Quinn's got plenty of shots. You know what I mean? Like we see these guys get more shots. He probably grows up a little bit, right?
Yeah.
And then he gets another shot, and he comes in and he goes, okay, this time I'm going to do it different. Like I'm going to put out my expectations. Kyle Shanahan's not even though he's still a cool cat, he's also still very structured. And you look at Ben Johnson, like Ben Johnson went to the Bears. Like Ben Johnson isn't one of the boys. Ben Johnson, that's you listen to all those players do interviews. Caleb Williams is like, man, that guy showed up and like the expectations were crazy. Like he was like
Ben Johnson reminds me if like Dan Campbell and Sean McVay had a baby, it would be Ben Johnson.
I like it.
He's got that Dan Campbell gravitas with the Sean McVay evil genius offensive play caller mindset. He's taking his shirt off, giving everybody free hot dogs, but then he's drawing up hook and ladder plays at crucial moments of the game. It's just you gotta love that. That's what football's supposed to be, man. It's a little bit of crazy with a heck of a lot of alpha.
Yeah. Speaking of crazy, let me tell you, nobody. I would be willing to bet nobody took the Bears San Francisco game to be that high scoring.
No way.
It was nuts. For both of those. It was
a gift from the fantasy gods.
Yeah. The Bears are like the leading defense in the league in takeaways. San Francisco have been strong, and both of them just like I haven't seen CMC run like that all season. He's like cutting through at his longest run of the season. Like, it was just nuts. It was a crazy game. Absolutely blast to watch.
My favorite part of that game, I don't know if you probably remember this, but 2 years ago, so not last season, but the previous season, Brock Purdy in championship weekend threw 4 interceptions. So if you started Brock Purdy in your fantasy championship game, he ended up with negative points 3 years ago or 2 years ago, whatever it is. And then he ends the season this year with arguably the best game of his career. The dude's out there looking like prime Mahomes, juking 2 defenders, throwing on the run for like what do you have, 5 total touchdowns or 4? I mean, so you go from a 4 interception game and a championship game to 2 years later, you're potentially winning league championships with that performance. I just love watching the growth of Brock Purdy, who was Mr. Irrelevant. Everybody knows his story. You just can't. The NFL is the ultimate drama, dude. You cannot get better storytelling. If it's a script writer, fine. I'm in. I'm into the script. But I'm telling you, there's no better drama than what the NFL gave us last week. And that's going to be really hard to – tomorrow, really, the Saturday games are really the only 2 that are really intriguing to me. I think there's a couple of one-offs on Sunday, but, man, you're not going to be able to beat last week. That was just a fantastic, fantastic primetime finish on Sunday night and then Monday night.
Oh, yeah. Dude, the games were crazy. Like, I was like – I didn't know. I mean, you've still got some good ones this week. Like you've got some deciders. The San Francisco Seattle game is going to be an absolute must watch. Even you got Steelers Ravens. It's going to be a big game to watch. Yeah. Carolina Tampa Bay's playing for the playoffs. There's still a lot of good games. Then there are games without meaning. But there are still games with meaning. Even the Jacksonville game, you got to watch. I mean, it's possible that Jacksonville wins the AFC.
Man, talk about another guy that bombed a press conference and is suddenly like a genius.
Dude, so I did the opening article about Liam Cohen going to Jacksonville. for Fantasy Sports Advice Network, and in it I covered like the things that he brings, that he attributes in leading like a passing game and getting your running backs involved in the passing game, and what he can do with some decent receivers. And just like, man, you've seen Trevor Lawrence in like the last 4 or 5 games just come alive, and you're like, oh my God, this is what we've been waiting for. This is what we've been waiting for.
Yes.
Like they're gonna do this thing. The defense is spectacular. They have probably two of the best linebackers in the league. Great young defensive ends. Trayvon Walker's like doing things that they were hoping he was going to do. It's just exciting, and it's cool. You look at this playoff series. There, of course, there are teams that typically go, but you have so many teams that are back in it that you go like where's Jacksonville been? Like Jacksonville's been, they're like a minor league team. They got low budget, not a. I mean, the city's okay, but I mean, Duval, like okay, but here they are, here they are, and Trevor Lawrence is at the helm. People like you got Trevor Lawrence in like the bottom half of quarterbacks. Like after QB 20, you're drafting Trevor Lawrence this year in fantasy. You're picking him up off waivers mid-season. He's definitely one of the great stories of what ETN blowing the roof off. Yeah, everybody was like, "Oh, it's going to be Bashal Tootin. It's going to be Bashal Tootin."
I was one of those guys. Tank
Bigsby, and like I drafted ETN in like every single league because I got him in like 8th round, 7th, like super cheap, and I'm like, dude, yeah, they're not just going to get rid of him. And sure enough, they get rid of Tank and they feed ETN. And I'm just like, raw, yes.
Yeah.
But just so many big wins that, like you said, that this year, this NFL's been absolutely full of storylines. It's been incredible. And you gotta love that. You gotta love it. Even like you even look at Seattle, like Darnold. Nobody expected Darnold to be what he's being in Seattle. Like, he goes between 2 rough teams. Even me this year, I was like, I'm going to take a shot on Milroe late because I don't know that Darnold can last the whole season. Like, they didn't have a good offensive line, but JSN has been absolute bullets for him. Freaking Barner has come alive. Who's a tight end that I really liked coming into the league. With tight ends, if you're playing Dynasty, and Matt, I'm sure you could agree with this. If you play Dynasty, you draft tight ends not for year 1. Like you draft tight ends for like 3 years in, 3 or 4 years in, then you're going to get the kind of production. You have to go on like, man, this guy is talented. He's a full all-purpose tight end, and then just wait.
Yeah, we got spoiled with Kyle Pitts and then Brock Bowers most recently. So now we expect these guys to be these generational receivers right out of the get-go, when the reality is, like you just said, the average tight end you draft in dynasty leagues is a 2 or 3 year wait and see kind of thing. And sometimes you're just wrong on them. I mean, sometimes it's later than that. And we just are so used to the here and now. Teams are now running more 13 personnel. So you're seeing younger guys get opportunities more, but it doesn't mean that they're the focal point of the offense. And typically a tight end is going to be a high caliber fantasy player when they are 1 or 2 on their team's options for receiving. So you got guys like Brock Bowers, who's arguably the number 1 receiver, especially now that Jacoby Myers is gone. People like that, you have to be able to have these guys. But you have Colby Parkinson, though, who's the 3rd, 4th, 5th string tight end for the Rams, who was viable because they run so much 13 personnel. But it's not like he was going to win weeks. He was going to lose weeks if you started him in some cases. So it's just a matter of you got to let these guys marinate a little bit. You can't just rush them into the starting lineup because you picked them high. That doesn't mean anything, especially at that position. You have to block and be a quality receiver. Those are 2 totally different things, and not everybody's going to pick them up right away.
Yeah, that's like one of my favorite things in Dynasty when I draft. People spend early picks to get a tight end. Or like when I go to trade for one, they want, I want 2 firsts, or I want a first and second for Laporta. And I'm like, dude, I'm good. I was like, I'm going to be okay. I've got a guy sitting on my roster that's going to bloom. And you saw it, Trey McBride, year 1, nothing. Finished tight end 41. And then year 2, tight end 7. Now back to back. tight end 2, tight end 1, like, just absolute awesome. And you just got to give him a little bit of time. You know who else is starting? You're starting to get a little glimpse of what he could be that he didn't get. Is freaking Greg Dulcich. Dulcich is getting used in Miami with Quinn Ewers, and it's like, okay, he looks good, and you're like, and he's a good blocker. He's catching the football. I'm like, man, this might be one of those fourth-year bloomers right here. We'll see.
Yeah.
So, okay. Kind of shifting a little bit. And guys, remember, if you're watching, tune in. You can drop questions. If you're just enjoying the chat, that's cool too. We're here for entertainment. We got about 13, 18 minutes left on the show. So players that gave you, or give me 2 players, and I know this is kind of off the cuff, that gave you enough. And we can go either – we'll do this. We'll split it. We'll go young player with significant potential for you, like somebody that you can still get now in Dynasty for cheap with big-time potential. And then we'll go big-time player whose stock fell enough this season to make a manageable buy now.
So the stock fall guy for me is definitely Justin Jefferson. I don't think his stock is going to fall enough where it's still not going to be expensive, but I do think the J.J. McCarthy discourse is going to sow doubt in dynasty managers' heads about what Justin Jefferson's long-term viability is at his current rate. If all things remain equal, let's say J.J. McCarthy doesn't take that next step, even with Kevin O'Connell as the offensive coordinator, we did not see Justin Jefferson at his peak this year. But what we do know is when Justin Jefferson is at his peak, there is truly only maybe 1 guy or 2 guys that you could argue are better. And that to me is enough to take the risk, eat a little bit of crow, even if you lose the trade year 1. Let's say they give J.J. McCarthy another year, and let's say he doesn't improve. And it's kind of hard not to improve when you've got such a good offensive coordinator / head coach / play caller around you. I find it hard to not get good. And they're not going to let their jobs die, especially when they revitalized Sam Darnold's career. They had Kirk Cousins, and Justin Jefferson was the 1A to Jamar Chase's 1B or 1A, 1B, whichever one you wanted to pick. It was basically choose your flavor of receiver. But Jefferson is now, I think he still finished in the top 7. I don't think he was bad enough to drop out of the top 7, but he's not going for Justin Jefferson 2 years ago price now. And I do think it's an easier buy, for a dynasty perspective on Justin Jefferson as my player who kind of went down. Player who I'm buying, and it's because, like I said, I've got a little bit of a bias here. I did cover the Dolphins in the training camp. I like Ollie Gordon. I know Devon Achane, I don't know if you saw the underdog stat that they threw out there that he's the first player that ever had 10-plus points in every single game of the season, consistently all 17 games. That's an impressive stat, but I don't think Ollie Gordon can't contribute. And I think if Mike McDaniel is going to take that next step as an offensive coordinator, play caller, head coach, they're going to have to get a more consistent run game that is not just reliant upon Devon Achane breaking 80-yard runs. They're going to have to establish I don't want to say everybody uses the comp, the Sonic and Knuckles, Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery. I don't think you're ever going to see anything as good as that. I think at their peak, they were the best 1-2 punch in the NFL. But I do think that Ollie Gordon provides them, some assurance that Devon Achane is not going to get all of these hits that are going to pile up. We've already seen him get some injuries early in his career. He's a bigger back. And towards the end of the season and in training camp and throughout the whole season, he wasn't a bad option. He's obviously not as good as Devon Achane, but he's young. He's a bigger body. He could be used in the red zone. And if you can get 8 to 10 touchdowns out of him, maybe get 500 to 700 all-purpose yards, that is a very solid depth piece running back who's a bye-week filler that I think you can get cheap right now in Dynasty.
Yeah, no, I love it. For me, my buy lows this year, and it was just because it was a weird year for them, were wide receivers. Wide receivers, it was funky this season.
Yes, it was.
And you got 2 guys that were drafted high that were looked to be big, big play guys, and they've looked tough this season, not only whether it be injuries or talent, but also like even just regular plays. Like, you think about, and the two people I'm talking about is MHJ, Marvin Harrison Jr., and
Mhm.
Brian Thomas Jr. Brian Thomas
Hey,
Jr. has looked bad. Like, I mean,
yes, yeah.
just blatant drops, like old school DK Metcalf, like dishpan hands, you know what I'm saying? Like,
I feel you.
just looked bad. And so, you got people, you see Jacoby Myers is there, and he's like, he's making a bunch of catches. Obviously you got Travis Hunter, who's going to be coming back. And you're sitting here going like, where's the place for BTJ? Like, where does he live on this team, and can he be BTJ that we got before, right? And to me, that's all you need. Like that doubt, that narrative, right? Like after a bad season, to get him for cheap.
Yeah,
Like, a second round rookie pick, maybe might have to be
I
early,
love it.
but
Well, people forget that there's a realistic possibility. They've got a lot of people there now. I mean, if let's say Travis Hunter comes back and he is the receiver that he was drafted to be, it makes Brian Thomas Jr. really the third option there. Fourth, if you want to count Brenton Strange, who's also come into his own there at the tight end position. Let's say he goes to another team. Well, nobody remembers the Jacoby Myers on the New England Patriots years. Okay, we all know Jacoby Myers now with Trevor Lawrence feeding him the ball like he's being fed. I think that Brian Thomas Jr. is the perfect guy who can go to a second team if he can't figure it out here in Jacksonville and be the Brian Thomas that we saw last year. But this was definitely a year where I don't know if he's reading his own headlines coming into the season and maybe was feeling a little bit bigger than he is. I don't know if he's just had a bad year. This happens. They're human beings. You never know what's going on. But the reality is the Jaguars are winning despite this. They look good with Hunter hurt and Brian Thomas not looking the same. So imagine if these dudes are at their peak. This is a scary offense.
oh, dude, it's so scary. And it's like BTJ. The main thing that's killing him is touchdowns. Like, he's only had 2 touchdowns this season,
Yeah.
but he's still. I mean, I say 658 yards, and he missed some games. It's not what you draft, but that's what you need to get him as a buy low. And
Yep.
and he is different than Jacoby Myers. He is different than any other, even Travis Hunter. Like, he is a Will Fuller, like sprint down the sideline, burn somebody, and catch a deep ball. Like that's what he's really good at, and they need to get him back to doing that. And let Jacoby Myers do those in routes and out routes and all that jazz. So he's that's a good buy low for me. I don't know if you see in the back on top of the speaker. I'm a diehard Razorback fan. I have had Hunter Henry
Cool
on my
pick.
roster since he was drafted back in the day. He's looked great. My Darren McFadden, like it's all good stuff. This year, Isaac Tesla goes to the Lions.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
15 catches, and 6 of those for touchdowns. 6 of those for touchdowns. And what, 4 out of the 6 are like highlight reel catches, like making Sports Center's top 10, right? And you go, well, how does he carve out a role in this offense? Talent will carve out a role. And if you're watching them play, there's no way you're going, that guy doesn't need to be on the field. Like, no, that guy does need to be on the field. He is the problem with the Lions this year has not been the talent. It has been Jared Goff. It has been Jared Goff and that offensive line. Them losing Frank Ragnow.
Yeah.
You couldn't have guessed that it would be that bad of a difference. That's why they tried to get him back. And they're like, please come out of retirement, and he comes back and he can't pass the physical because he's not completely healthy. It's like, who, by the way, Frank Ragnow, another Razorback. So, but, man, I really like that guy. I don't think he did enough to climb too high, they're still going to be, non-believers. I think you can get him for like a 3rd-round pick, and I would just stash him because he's going to get there. Now let me ask you this, and I have been put on a what do you call it? Like people flamed. I have been fired up over this one and blasted because I was a huge Treylon Burks guy. You see it right there.
Ooh, yes, I can see it.
And I felt it was always a byproduct of the place. Like when he had Tannehill, it looked better. Then they bring in Levis, who couldn't hit the broadside of a barn, like just inaccurate. See him throw downfield, and freaking D-Hop's having to run 6 yards the other direction just to catch the football. Like, Mayonnaise Boy was never going to be the guy. And I mean, his girlfriend, Noah, she left him right after the draft. He was never going to be the guy.
Damn.
but you know what I'm saying? Like, it was just that's what it was. And so, rookie quarterbacks are also, they're notorious for not protecting the receivers. You throw it up, you're getting your guys hit, you're getting your guys beat up, and he could do it. Nobody did anything in that offense. You know what I mean? Like, and so he goes to a new team. And the first little snippets that we get in a different offense with a different team, even with a backup quarterback like Mariota, you get a couple highlight reel catches. You get a little bit of that, like what we drafted him for. So my question, and this is really looking unbiased, right? Because I'm not tooting Burke's horn. What I'm wondering is if there's a reality that you can get somebody for free. Right, like you can get them. You probably get them for a 4th-round pick, a 3rd-round rookie pick, late 3rd-round rookie pick. Somebody see, especially during the draft, somebody sees somebody they want to take a late round run on in 4th round, and you go, "Hey, I'll give you, give me Treylon Burks, and I'll give you this pick." They'll probably do it.
Yeah.
Do you think he can? It took Tyler Lockett 4 years to go off, to break out. Do you think that Burks can do it, or do you think it's never going to be a thing for him?
So I love big body receivers. I think those are my favorite. If I was doing the creative player on Madden, I always take these giant receivers. I always build these guys up like Calvin Johnson, right? And when he was traded, or when AJ Brown was essentially traded for the rights to choose Treylon Burks, it felt like they traded AJ Brown to draft a younger AJ Brown. That's kind of how it was viewed at the time, because he was kind of that same template, that same archetype. Obviously, AJ Brown we've now seen is just kind of a different human, so it looks bad in hindsight. Now that Burks isn't on the team anymore, I think you can safely say that it was just a bad pick. That being said,
well, both the guys,
I don't think he is a bad player. I think that he is going to have to play the stink off of him. He's going to have that reputation in the league, and he is now going to be quarterback dependent, because I don't see him as a guy that is going to overcome bad quarterback play, especially now that we're in year 3, year 4, maybe 2. I don't remember when he was drafted. I apologize. Yeah. So you're starting to kind of hit the make or break moment here. Now there are great secondary, third receivers like an MVS that nobody ever talks about, but you see him on your waiver wire, right? And you pick him up because he's going to have a spot start. Somebody ahead of him on the depth chart is gone, and he has opportunity to play. I don't think, obviously, him and MVS are totally different players, but he does strike me as a guy that's not going to be out of the league. He is talented enough. He's got the big body that is going to go against these smaller corners. He's going to create mismatches just by being on the field. So I'm like with you, he's the perfect free player, because if you're going to go for a free player, you might as well go for the cyborg guy, the prototype. And that is what he is. At his peak, he is a physical monster. The problem is we haven't seen him utilize that to get to I'm taking this number one receiver spot and I'm keeping it and nobody's taking it from me. He's just never been that guy. And I don't know if it's because up here he just doesn't want to dominate like that, or if he's just not good enough in today's game to do so. So I'm a fence rider on this one, to be completely honest with you, because I just don't know enough about the guy. other than the trade stuff and the aftermath of what we've seen from that trade.
Let me see. What if? Tell me what you think about this. What if Dallas doesn't re-sign Pickens
Okay.
and instead they bring in Treylon?
I'm in. I would definitely do that. I would definitely try to get him on my team. 100%. CeeDee Lamb takes all the attention. You have a good tight end in the middle and Ferguson. Absolutely. Because then you just have this big body receiver on the outside who's complimenting CeeDee Lamb. So they're not going to be able to – he's going to get one-on-ones. And if there's one thing that he would dominate, it would be one-on-one options against secondary corners. So, yeah, absolutely. Dallas picks him up.
Him and Pickens are very similar wide receivers. Just one doesn't come with all the headaches the other one does. Anyways, okay. So if obviously we've talked about wins. We've talked about winning your leagues. We've talked about a little bit of dynasty stuff. About the show right here. And for all the people that watch this or that have been watching that didn't win their leagues, what do you have for? I got a message from a guy who's been following us for a while, and today, and he was like, guys, thank you so much. This community has meant so much to me. He's like, I'm stepping away from fantasy football. And he was like, he was like, I can't get the win. It keeps avoiding me. And he was like, he's old. But some people are like that. Some people are like, I'm done, man. I can't win. Even when I get close, like I win all season, I go undefeated. I get to the championships and my, Jahmyr Gibbs just bombs, and I lose. Like,
yep.
For those people, if you could leave them with something to keep them playing, or even just to encourage them, what would it be?
This is a game, and games have winners and losers, and nobody, I can assure you, likes to lose. We don't start to do this. We don't spend 17 weeks grinding to lose that last week because our best player lays an egg, but it happens. And it happens because of the unpredictability and the beauty of this game. And just remember, if you are on the other side of that and it sucks, you're eating crow. There's nothing good about losing, especially if it was on a Monday night and you were going against Bijan Robinson, who had the game of his life. On the other side, there was a guy that was probably the best game of his season. There was a person that was on the other side of that matchup that is ultimate glory. And you have to hope that they're not a crap talker. You got to hope they're not a Matt Monty or a Tyler Bradley letting you know about it every time we win. You got to hope that they are a gracious winner, because it does hurt. But I can assure you that if there is no way to win if you quit, there's no way to win if you don't play. And it's not fun. And I have a quote. I'm a big quote guy. Alexis Carrel. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the chemist Alexis Carrel, because I wasn't. I love quotes, and I just love this one. A man cannot remake himself without suffering, for he is both the marble and the sculptor. Sometimes you just got to get in the lab. You got to look in the mirror and go, all right, I lost because my running backs died. Like you just said at the beginning of our show, you went 7 running backs deep in your draft, and you were 1 week too late. Great strategy, 1 week too late. I guarantee you don't go into next year doing the same strategy. Maybe you go 6 straight. Yeah, maybe you – right? Fair enough. But you will do something different because you don't want those same results to happen. And just remember, like I said, it's a game. And at the end of the day, for as bad as you felt that last week, think about the other side of the matchup. That person probably had a pretty good one, and it can be you. You just got to keep grinding.
Matt, that was beautiful. That was like Hallmark movie beautiful. If you're right. Crap, like if it was me, I'd been like, you know what? Quit. More championships for me, baby. Get out of here. You can't take the heat. Get out the kitchen. You know what I'm saying? Look, I'm here to win championships. That's it. No, Hey guys, we hope you win. Don't quit. Keep grinding. It's going to happen. And when you do win, it's going to feel that much better. Look, we'll see you next week from the forum. We're going to start off-season content and got something special coming your way. We will be launching again, if you remember from last year, our Fantasy Sports Advice Network Playoff Challenge. It is a playoff through the Super Bowl long DFS style tournament with a twist, and overall champion takes home a nice prize. So be looking for that. We'll drop the link in the comments. We'll see you next week. Matt, absolute pleasure, brother. You guys keep it real. Good luck if you're still playing this week.
We are here. We are here. FantasySportsAdvice.com, offering the best fantasy sports social media platform. Why join endless Discord communities or the trolls of Reddit? Fantasy Sports Advice is a community designed to help you win with 24/7 support. Go to FantasySportsAdvice.com and become a pro member for unlimited access. Again, go to Fantasy Sports Advice.